Yeah, that's the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Kallas and Marks with host Joe Staszak. Steve Kallas on hand today. How you doing, Steven?
Oh, good, Joe. Great to be with you as always.
You too. Regular seasons in the NBA and the NHL winding down. My man, the 9 foot Frenchman, hit the magic number last night, 65 games. So he's now eligible for all kinds of individual awards, which I'm not sure he cares about that much, but other people do. And he's got his San Antonio Spurs in the right direction. Your thoughts?
Well, Wemby had a rib contusion, as you know, and he
I
missed
remember he
the
ran into
game.
our guy,
And
George,
he, and
Paul
he
George.
needed one more game to get to 65. To me, he's got to be the defensive player of the year. You can make an argument, maybe the MVP. I mean, the Spurs are 62 and 19. Who would have thought that at the beginning of the year? But here's what I want to read when I have it on my phone. To play 65 games, there are some games that you haven't played enough. These rules I never heard of, but I'm sure others have. I've never even heard of this before seeing this on SportsCenter. Notable 65 game award rules. Keep in mind, Wemby's played in 64 before this game last night. Games played with under 15 minutes don't count. So heaven forbid you play 10, 12, 14 minutes and twist your ankle really bad and come out for the game.
Doesn't count.
Two games played between 15 and 20 minutes count, but a
No,
third would not.
can't do a third.
And then finally, playing in the NBA Cup final counts. Now, the NBA Cup final, as we've talked about since they've had it, is like a made for TV tournament in the middle of the year, but it counts, except it does not count in regular season stats.
I was blown away when I heard that. What? What are you talking about? You can have a
Playing in the NBA Cup final counts, but it does not count in regular season stats. How stupid. They're trying to make that a playoff. You know, we've talked about this made for TV in the middle of the season stuff. You know
That's
what I mean?
crazy.
In any event, though, now Wemby is questionable for the game. He's got a rib contusion, but he comes out and he plays. He eventually plays 20 minutes and 14 seconds. He had to play over 20 because I guess he played two games between 15 and 20. Remember the rule I just read? The third one doesn't count. He needs one more game. So they took him out of the game with 20. He had played 20 minutes and 14 seconds and they took him out. So I'm thinking, yeah, that's a smart thing to do. The guy's got a rib contusion. He was questionable for the game, but then he comes back and plays 6 minutes more. He finishes with 40 points and 13 rebounds. To me, that was almost like, I don't want to say it was the middle finger to the NBA, but it was like,
Pretty
this is
much it was.
so, so he's eligible. I mean, they have a chance. You know, people are picking them. Big Perk on ESPN. He's picking them to win the whole thing. And when brought up, nobody has any experience there. You know, they got the Aaron Fox, a real good player. Who's the other guy? Castle. He's a real good player. I mean, they got a really good team. Um, but it's hard for me to believe, as great as Wembanyama is, and he's great, that they can go through the whole thing in the West and then deal with whomever in the East. Once again, the West seems loaded compared to the East, in my opinion. We'll get to that in a minute. But Wembanyama, I assume he's not going to play the next game because now he's got 65.
He's got 65. He can pretty much, chill out,
Right.
which is
So
ridiculous. The whole thing's ridiculous.
now the flip side of that is tanking. The Brooklyn Nets, who have been terrible all year. Remember that one year? Who was it? It was Kyrie, Harden, and KD. They were going to wipe out the Knicks, rule the world. How long did that last? Did it even last a year? It certainly didn't
No.
last two, but whatever. And I don't know if there are penalties because I didn't hear the Nets were fined or anything. They're playing the Pacers, and in the hierarchy, which I also have, or the lowerarchy, is that a word, Joe? Just going to give you the bottom ones quickly. Um, from the bottom, the Wizards are 17 and 62. The Pacers are now 19 and 61. The Nets are 20 and 60. And the Jazz and the Kings are at the top of the bad one-loss final five. They're both 21-59. Now they still have to finish out the season. So the Pacers come to Brooklyn, and the Nets 5 starters combined their 5 starters combined had started 12 NBA games. Yet somehow the Pacers beat the Nets 123-94. So, I mean, if that's not a dump, I don't know what is. Now, ESPN had Brian Windhorst do this. Nobody in the world wants to see this game, Memphis and Utah. So this is yesterday. This is yesterday's game. So he even made an announcement. I don't know quite the percentages, but I'll read you what he said. He said, if Memphis wins the game, Memphis at Utah, if they win the game, they lose a 7% chance to get a lottery pick. They're not in these first 5 teams we just mentioned. Utah, if they win the game, they lose the 10% chance. So who's going to win? Utah. What's the score? 147-101. And with an incredible record that has to have an asterisk next to it in my world, Joe, has to have an asterisk. For the first time in the history of the NBA, Utah had 3 guys, Conchar, Embing, and Meshack, who all had triple doubles. And never before in history has there been a game where one team had 3 triple doubles. But in this 147-101, I don't want to win, you win. That part was played by the Memphis Grizzlies, who are now 25-56, and the Utah Jazz are now 22-59. So I guess they could afford to win one, but they lost 10% according to Brian Windhorst. So these things are I guess you can't solve them, Joe. I guess you just can't solve them.
They've tried. They've tried with the fines and everything, but no one really cares.
Now, Brian Windhorst, who was what? He became famous because he covered LeBron in high school.
Yeah, he does a nice job. Yeah.
Good for him. Yeah, good for him. But he was telling the Knicks beat the Celtics on Thursday night. Tatum, as you know, is back. He's playing pretty well.
They had 29 threes last night.
And the Knicks beat the Celtics 112-106. And everybody is saying, what a great victory, what a great this, what a great that. And of course, all you have to know is Jaylen Brown didn't play. He didn't play.
Pretty much.
Jaylen Brown plays. So now Knicks are walking around, not the Knicks themselves, but people who cover the Knicks and Knicks fans. I'm a Knicks fan, but I'm not going to say it. The Knicks beat the Celtics in their head-to-head matchups this year, 3-1. Except in none of those 4 games did Tatum play, because he was hurt. He played in this one, of course. But Jaylen Brown and Tatum never played together in a game against the Knicks. So, and of course, the Celtics are 2 games ahead of the Knicks, even though they lost to the Knicks. So I think if they play, the Celtics will have home court advantage. They'll also have, barring injury, Brown and Tatum. Mm-hmm. So when you look at that, and Windhorst was saying this was really a good win. Tatum really didn't play that well. And Tatum had 24 points, 13 rebounds, 8 assists. What is his 4th game back?
That's pretty good.
So he had some numbers to say, yeah, he didn't score in the last 8 minutes or whatever. You know, the guy's coming back. He's playing for the playoffs. Did he want to win yet on Thursday? Of course he did. But he's playing for the playoffs. He doesn't have Jaylen Brown. So I don't view that to be, and I hope I'm wrong. I'm a Knicks fan, but I don't view that to be the Knicks because they were 3-1 against the Celtics, who never had a full squad against them. I don't see that as much of anything personally. Your 76ers are on the bubble. Are they on the bubble or are they getting in? Embiid had appendicitis surgery, emergency appendicitis surgery in Houston. You know, he had to get the surgery in Houston. That's where he had.
They're not going anywhere without him. I mean, yes, I know. It's every year. It's. I know they joke about it. It's a shame. I mean, something happens every year to him, injury-wise. This one, you can't. It's not like he was out eating, overeating Chick-fil-A or too many, Shake Shacks. This was appendicitis. You can't help that, and it's just unfortunate. It seems like every year an injury to him, or the sniffles, or the flu or something derails their potential playoff run. Not that they necessarily were going anywhere, but they can put it together and they look decent at times, but they don't have the championship DNA in that locker room. They just don't, unfortunately. But who does? And they haven't won a national title since '89 before Monday night, the Michigan Wolverines. And they've had the Fab Five too, twice in between. 91, 92, went to the finals, didn't win it, but Ramil Robinson, when he hit the free throws against Seton Hall, the timeout game, as you're mentioning, Chris Webber. But they beat UConn the other night. Didn't play that well either. Well, 2 for 15 from three. They played their worst game of the tournament, and maybe UConn had something to do with that. UConn was scrappy, hung around most of the game, but for a team that averaged beating teams by 21.2 points in the first 5 games, I mean, they won by 6 and probably could have been worse, and they didn't play that well. Now, but my question is this, because that team was built up from the transfer portal, and that's the way it is today. That's fine. I'm not going to go old school and say, well, back in my day, which whatever. Is anyone going to remember this team? Like, you know what I mean? Like they had a guy that came from North Carolina, was the point guard, probably their best player. The other guy was hurt and played in the final game. He was Big Lendenborg, and they had some other pieces around him that kind of came together in one year. It's kind of like Indiana, the Hoosiers football team that was perennially awful, and then won 14 games 2 years ago, and then won 16 games last year and won the title with bringing in new guys, and that's kind of the way it
Well,
goes.
I just saw this on ESPN today or yesterday. Godot, that's the name of the point guard, right? He played
Yeah,
really well.
Elliot.
They kind of let him shoot because his view was more of a passer and a scorer. But when he had to score, he did because they let him take some open shots, and he made some incredible drives to the
He
basket as
did.
well.
He did.
But I think it was yesterday that Michigan announced, and this is how it was presented on the ESPN, that Godot is coming back to Michigan next year. He's agreed to a deal with Michigan.
He's
And that's how
agreed
it
to.
is now
He's
today.
agreed to a
He's
deal.
agreed to a deal with Michigan, which means I guess you can make these NIL promises in advance now.
Amazing. Hey, it is what it is. It's a different landscape. What are you going to do? I think
And
it's
make
like
make the best deal you can. That's
it
what you
used to be. You couldn't have a side job selling T-shirts back in like the
couldn't
early
go home for
'90s.
Christmas. You couldn't go home for
Couldn't
Christmas.
go out for Christmas.
If the
Now
school,
it's like a bidding war. Quarterbacks making 5-6 million a year to stay in school. They make more. Oh my goodness gracious.
I did want to say one thing on the Final Four. I just want to speak briefly on UConn, Illinois. Of course, my son's an assistant professor there now, and he's been to games, and he says you got to see these games. It's crazy, but that's how it is in college. As you know, college football the craziest. But I'm going to argue that college basketball is a close second. And don't forget how much closer to the field they are than in football games. But in any event, Illinois died by the 3. UConn 12 for 33 for 36%. Illinois 6 for 26, which is unheard of for them. I didn't go back and look at the stats, but I'm willing to bet that was 23% was probably the worst, or certainly one of the worst 2 or 3 games of the season for them. And frankly, I thought that was the difference in the game. They had their chances. But was UConn the better team? Look, I thought St. John's was better than them. But you got to give them credit. Although it's, what is it, the first Final Four game or the first Elite Eight game that they've ever lost? And they were 6-0 in the Final Four, and now they're 6-1.
Mm-hmm.
You got to give Danny Hurley credit. He lived in the shadow of his brother, and his dad is a great high school coach in the Hall of Fame. He lived in the shadow, and now he's gotten, he's got the right to be, but 3 Final Fours in what, 4 years now? He won the other 2. He's the king of coaching, and if he won this one, he'd be one of the all-time greats. But you got to give UConn credit. They made it to the final game, and I think Michigan was the best team. I thought Arizona might be better than them, but I was wrong. But congratulations to Michigan, and now we know they have their point guard next year, Joe.
Yeah, their structures, their infrastructures in place. I mean,
you can't make it up.
who knows who's going to surround them because there's so much change every year. But hey, you know what? It's the way it is. What are you going to do? It'd be nice if, like, Jay, we look at those teams and go, well, but it'd be nice if the teams we root for had the same thing and could bring in those same players and resurrect a team. Now you only get, if you're a coach, you might not get that much rope to build a program, because you watch. Look at Kurt Signetti. 2 years turned his around. So that's kind of like, okay, well, if we're going to hire a guy, he did it in 2 years. Why aren't you doing it in 2 years? Why isn't this guy from Why aren't you doing what Michigan did? They had 7 wins 2 years ago, 3 years ago. 7 wins. And under, was it Martelli? I'm not sure who was coaching there. I know what Juwan Howard was before that, but go ahead. Like, that's the standard now. 2, 3 years, turn it around. You got the transfer portal. You got a lot of money. You got boosters. You may not get as much leeway. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of standard new coaches are held to. We shall see. Um, Before I wanted to get in, I know we want to get into baseball a little bit. Let's talk about the Masters a little bit. How do you not know that you're not supposed to use a cell phone? To me, this is more fascinating than Rory McIlroy having a six-stroke lead with 2 rounds left, and he might repeat and whatever. What? Like what? They take that really seriously at those events. It's the Masters too. It is the
Yep.
gold standard of tournaments. It's the one I like to watch the best. I'll watch the majors. The Masters is the one. I love the Masters. What are you doing? Like what? Did you not know that you did you mark Calvecchia because what? You've been playing a while. They're gonna like let it slide. What's going on?
No, they're just very strict down there.
You can't
I mean,
make that
with
up.
everything, with everything. Well, what about, I don't know, did he get fined? The guy who gave the finger to the crowd, was it yesterday, I think? Or was it in the first round? Let me see.
They
I
don't
think it
like
was
that
yesterday.
either at golf tournaments.
Huh?
Well, those golf people, they're very, they're high standards. So I don't think they
I
like,
assume you get a fine for that, but they said, oh, there could be some punishment. We don't know what it's gonna be. Like maybe they kick him out for giving the crowd the finger. And I don't know what happened to make him even do that. But it struck me that he'd get a big fine and still get to play because he's already playing. But I didn't hear anything after that about it, so I don't know.
well, anyway, Rory McIlroy was just blazing yesterday, six-stroke lead, the biggest lead at the Masters heading into the final 2 rounds. He won last year,
Ending champ, yeah.
and it's doesn't quite have the I look. I know Tiger. He's got his own issues. It was back in the day when Tiger was there. Things were different. They just were. At least
All right.
even if he was just in the pool, even when he wasn't Tiger anymore, and then he comes and wins the Masters in 2019. Just the fact that he's there. There's no Tiger presence. You know what I mean? But and then Rory McIlroy. We'll see. He had a hard time winning his first Masters last year.
That's right.
Excruciating how he ended up winning that. So we'll see if they say the monkey's off the back. You can breathe a little bit. You got one. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see down the stretch. Talked a little bit of baseball. How's that Ichiro statue working out? How's that going?
He
Is that
can't make
going
it
all right
up.
when they unveiled it? That's
They
worse than the
decided,
Dwayne Wade one when they took it off and it didn't look like that Dwayne Wade face was
boy, it did not
terrible.
look like Dwayne Wade. No, they had they always have the sheet or whatever it is over the statue, and when the guy pulls it off, the bat is broken. It's not broken off, it's broken. It's like a bat like this, and then
Check it. It was corked. He might have had a corked bat. You should check that.
well, they did say on ESPN, and I had forgotten this, that he was one vote shy of a unanimous. I mean, he should have been a unanimous Hall of Famer, but he was one vote shy. I don't know if the guy who did it ever admitted it. But whatever when you talk about Ichiro, to me, he's one of the top 15 players who ever lived.
Phenomenal.
And the only case I make for him is this. Now, he came in, what was he, 26 years old or 27 years, whatever he was, he had dominated in Japan. 10 200 hit seasons in a row, never happened. Plus 10 gold gloves in the same 10 years. Who can match that when you just have those two numbers? Not a power hitter, gun for an arm, great player. I remember reading when my son was young, I remember reading that Ichiro would have someone throw pieces of rice, little rice things, and that's what he hit. Best I did with my son was ping pong balls.
Pieces of rice. Couldn't even see that. What are you?
Exactly.
I mean,
So
I get the
well, he's
idea, like throwing BBs when they talk about,
he's a freak, Ichiro's. The stretching he did before games. I mean, you just go, how does he not break something or tear something? But he's Ichiro. So he's one of the greatest players of all time for me. And the only question for me, because people tried to say, well, he had 1,700 hits in Japan, so he really had more hits than Pete Rose. I love Ichiro. Pete Rose, the fact that he never got into the Hall of Fame, maybe he will eventually. I don't know. That's a disgrace. But he's the all-time hit leader.
Well,
And he
Sadahara O had like 800 home runs, but he played in Japan for a while. That didn't count, right?
exactly. So no, but some people, well, look, do I think Ichiro? Well, that's the point though. He started in the US at 26 or 27. If he had played those 5 years prior, he didn't need that many hits to catch Pete Rose, but he didn't.
He didn't do it. So what are we
So,
talking about?
and I never heard him say anything like that would be true to combine the two.
No.
But it was just a funny thing with the statute. But I'll say it again, one of the greatest players of all time, 10 200 hit seasons in a row, 10 gold gloves. I don't know how you can match that for length. Nobody's done that for 10 years. A few other baseball notes from me. Otani, again, I know there are people who say he's better than Babe Ruth. To me, that's a joke. But let me give you one first. So Skeens of the Pirates, he's
Yeah.
unbelievable, right? But he doesn't have a long-term contract or anything. The Pirates have this young player, Connor Griffin, who's real good. He's an outfielder, I'm pretty sure. They gave him, he's only been in the major leagues for like a month. They gave him a 9-year, $140 million contract. So of course, you know what the reporters did, where'd they go? They went right to Skeens, who doesn't have one of those contracts. And you could just see. And here's what he said. I guess he bit his tongue. He said, well, I guess he's going to be the face of the Pirates. And that
Listen,
says to me, he should want out already. I mean, the Pirates, they're not that good. I mean, the problem is, and even though with baseball, as you know, all the money's guaranteed. Once you sign it, you can break a leg tomorrow or have a serious injury and retire. You're getting all that money. But Skeens isn't getting all that money. He's probably at a short contract. I don't know what his contract is, but I would think that people are going to make incredible offers for him. And I don't know if I guess the Pirates figure he's a pitcher. We better not give him 9 years. He might get hurt. But that just struck me as weird
wouldn't
because
you use him as trade bait though? Like, what's he going to do to your franchise? Look, he's phenomenal, and that's great that he's there for the Pirates. But I mean, he's not going to unless you build around him. So wouldn't you maybe try to move him for pieces? I don't know.
well, eventually I think they will, especially now. I don't know if Skeens walks in and said, you give this guy 9 years, 140 million, make me an offer, I'm out of here. Just get rid of me. And we'll see. That might be the end of the year or something, but my goodness, because he is so good. Um, a couple things on Otani. I know they're trying to make Otani out to be better than Babe Ruth. I totally disagree with that. Go look at Babe Ruth's pitching numbers. He's like, I forget what it was, 90 and 35 or something. Guy was superstar in the World Series for Boston back in like 1914 or 1916 or somewhere around there, is the best lefty in baseball, blah, blah, blah. But now, Shohei Otani has 28 and 2/3 consecutive scoreless innings without giving up an earned run. And that's a big achievement. Someone should point out that I think Babe Ruth had 29 and 2/3 consecutive scoreless innings in the World Series, Joe. In the World Series. And then also yesterday, Otani, when he got on base, to me, hitting streaks are one thing. Get on base streaks, I don't know. But Otani now has a 44 game on base streak, and ESPN actually announced he now is the all-time game on base streak Japanese player,
I didn't know we
beating
were doing
Ichiro.
denominations and things like that now.
Beating Ichiro. And I'll just mention on that game because Max Muncy hit 3 homers. And the third homer was a walk-off homer in extra innings. He won the game. Um, but I just wanted to point out Diaz, who was the Mets closer for many years, but if you watched him as a Met, you knew on any given day, even though he had a great year last year, on any given day, he can give up home runs, give up leads. Don't forget, he missed the year. Remember, he jumped up and down and missed the
Yeah,
year.
in that tournament they played before the season, hurt himself.
Right. Well, in the game yesterday, where again, Max Muncy bailed everybody out with 3 home runs, including a walk-off to win the game. But Diaz came in up 7-4 against the Texas Rangers, proceeded to give up a 2-run homer, a double, and a single, blew the save. But Max Muncy came in to save the game. In fact, I have to go look to see if this would be my perfect. I didn't see if Diaz got the win because that was the bottom of the inning when Diaz I have to look at that because you know how I feel about that. A reliever comes in with a 3-run lead, he gives up 3 runs, then the bottom of the inning guy hits a home run on his team to win the game. He
He
gets the
gets
win.
the win. It's ridiculous. I
They
know.
should
It's
change that. Couple of other brief baseball notes. Unfortunately for us, this happened last Saturday night. Joe Adell of the Angels, outfielder, went over the wall 3 times to rob guys 3 times of home runs. Never happened in the history of baseball, as far as we can tell. Joe Adell, April 4th, 2026. I think you can find it online. And the Angels won that game 1-0, by the way. So it's a good thing he got all 3.
It was amazing.
And finally, already the legend of Mason Miller. Mason Miller is a reliever for the Padres. He played last year as a reliever. And I read somewhere where he struck out 11. No, he struck out 11 guys in a row this year. He's thrown a pitch at 103.4 miles per hour this year. And so far, the Padres, they had 2 walk-off home run games back to back. And Mason Miller, who won the second game, he struck out the sides in the top of the 9th, and they won in the bottom of the 9th. He is now faced, in his first 6 appearances this year, he struck out 16 of 21 batters he faced, and that's some kind of record. Again, I don't know how they do those mathematically. But now, after striking out the sides in his next appearance, in 7 appearances, he's faced 24 guys, 19 strikeouts, and 1 walk. These are video game numbers. But the guy throws it hard. He also has a breaking pitch. It's not bad. So just a lot of stuff. Again, this is early in the season, blah, blah, blah. But there's just some interesting stuff that's going on. Most interesting to me is Skeens. I don't know how they can't do right by him. Maybe it doesn't have to be 9 years. Maybe they give him 5 years. But he's one of the 3 best pitchers in baseball?
His ERA is a little high right now, but he's only pitched a couple games.
Yeah, well, he had that one bad.
He had that one bad game. It's
Yep.
a little over 5. But in other news, in the local 9 around here, off to a good start, 6 and 7, and the rookie Justin Crawford is hitting about 40 percentage points higher than their next guy, who's like one of the wealthy of the lineup. Trey Turner 255, Harper 245, Schwarber 182. I mean, everyone freaks out. They go in streaks. They'll get hot. Whatever. We'll see. I don't know if it's a great Phillies team. Getting a little old here and there, and they tend to do the same thing they do every year in October. They hit a wall. They start, swinging at everything, and that's kind of how they do. But we shall see. Dodgers are going to be tough to beat with that lineup. Braves are in first. I'm just, look, we're only 12 games in. Yankees obviously at the top with the Blue Jays. Pirates are in second place. That'll change, but that'll change pretty quickly. But some interesting stuff there. The hockey, hockey in this town, people get excited when the Flyers, make some noise. They're actually in the playoff hunt again. They probably will make the playoffs this year. But you have some interesting information on my man who broke Gretzky's goal record last year and what his future might be with the Washington Capitals.
Well, Ovechkin, I actually read because when I was watching ESPN this morning, they said Ovechkin goes to Pittsburgh to play the Pens and Sidney Crosby. It might be the last time he ever goes to Pittsburgh. And I'm like, wow, did someone say he's retiring? So I went and researched that this morning. And apparently he has said, I'm not going to decide what I'm going to do till after the season is over. But, we were probably the only people in the world who were doing like an OV 1,000 goal watch. He's now up to 928 for the record. He has 31 goals and 30 assists. Almost most incredible to me, 40 years old. When he plays today, it'll be his 80th game. He's playing 80 games, 31 goals, not 40 or 50, but 31.
It's still pretty good. A 30-goal scorer on your team, and he's been doing it forever. He's been a 40-goal scorer.
Right.
That's pretty good.
But he's also said, or it's gotten out that he would like to play in the KHL in Russia. He's close with Putin. Never talks about it now, of course, but he's close with Putin. And he wants to do that. Now he is 40, but I was reading an article where a guy said, well, he's starting to deteriorate, and it's going to take him 4 years to get 72 goals. Now that's 18 a year. I mean, it seems to me he might.
I'm thinking 3 max if he's still.
And maybe 2 if he can go 36, 36. Now, he played in all the games. He scored 31 goals. Hard to expect him to go up by 5 in those 2. but I agree with you. I think it would be three max if he wants. Now, maybe he doesn't want that. Maybe it's more important to play in the KHL. Maybe he knows what it takes to play 80 games at 40 years old, and I'm not sure I can do that at 41 or 42. But again, he's always been a big, strong guy. He's always, you know me, I've always thought he was a better hockey player than Crosby. He'd always stick up for himself. He would give it, he would give it and take it the way a big hockey player is supposed to. And I'm not knocking Crosby, but again, he's had protection all his life. He does have 3 cups. He also had a lot better players, I thought, than Ovi's had, who has 1 cup, of course. But we'll see what happens with that. He does have 928 goals. Everybody always said the Gretzky record would never be broken, and maybe we'll say now the Ovi record will never be broken because he's the dying breed, man. He comes in and plays forever. He plays hard. He plays all the games. He gives as good as he gets punched. He punches back and stuff like that. A few other quick hockey notes though. Although I will watch Caps at Pens today, 3 o'clock on ESPN. A couple of other quick things. Matthew Schaefer, defenseman, rookie defenseman for the Islanders, scored his 23rd goal on Thursday, and that ties Brian Leetch, Hall of Famer Brian Leetch, as the most goals ever by a rookie in his rookie season. They both had 23. Didn't have time to look up Bobby Orr, but I know Bobby Orr took the world by storm. And I remember his first year, he was unbelievable. And Harry Howell of the Rangers won the trophy for best defenseman. What is that? The Norris Trophy, I think, Joe?
Norris Trophy, that's correct.
Harry Howell won it, and he said, "I'm glad I won it this year because Bobby Orr is going to win the next 7 or 8." And I think he won like the next six or seven or something. But he's also the greatest offensive. I know you'll come up with guys later on, but he's also the greatest offensive defenseman who ever lived. Led the league in scoring a few times when that was unheard of. And one final note. So the Montreal Canadiens are pretty good this year. We don't really give them much time. When I was growing up, they were the French team and Toronto was the English team. If you went to Quebec to this day, I mean, if you went to Montreal to this day, they're mostly French speaking. And if you go to Toronto, they're mostly English speaking. And of course, they had that incredible rivalry in the 50s and 60s into the 70s. And then it's died because the Maple Leafs haven't won a cup since 1967. And the Canadians haven't won the cup. What was that? 1993, I think, Joe, when the Canadians last won the cup.
93 was when they won the cup last. They beat the Kings, Gretzky's year, and when he was in LA.
Yeah. But Cole Caulfield, an American-born citizen who plays for the Canadians, he scored his 50th goal. That doesn't happen very often. But I give them credit.
You related to Jay Caulfield? Jay Caulfield's a local guy. He was a goon. Played for the Penguins. It was my era when I covered
I don't even know, but to me, when I saw Montreal Canadiens 50 goals American born, you're not talking about Rocket Richard.
Maurice Richard, of course.
But the Canadiens are second place in the Atlantic Division, so good for them. And I didn't realize they were so good, but something to watch. And but again, I'm going to watch Caps at Pens today, 3 o'clock, in case it is Ovi's last game. But I hope he comes back because I think he can do it because he's a physical specimen. But yes, he is 40, and hockey is, how tough hockey is. But 928 goals and counting.
Can only imagine where his numbers would be if Nicholas Backstrom didn't stop playing hockey a couple years ago.
Right.
Backstrom was, I mean, Ovi's the guy, but Backstrom was really the guy behind the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they did commercials together, right?
They did. I mean, he was phenomenal. Those two were phenomenal together. It's a shame, but he's still scoring his goals. He's getting there. You mentioned because I was joking when I said that Jaromir Jagr, because he played in the KHL when he left the NHL after playing for like 49 teams. You said he played like 6 games this year. I was like, this year. He was drafted in 91. People in Philadelphia are still pissed that they took Mike Ricci over Jaromir Jagr back in the day. Jaromir Jagr is still playing, even if it's 6 games. That's he's over 50. I mean, that's like Gordie Howe stuff.
No, because I was reading an article about Ovi, and I thought I saw this mentioned. Yes, 53-year-old Jaromir Jagr played during the 25-26 season, marking his 38th professional season. He played for his hometown, Retifi Kladno, in the Czech Extraliga. making his season debut in October 2025 following a muscle injury and continuing to play into early 2026. No, it doesn't say how many games he played here, but they said, I'm pretty sure, no, the article I read said he only played like 6 games, but give him credit, 38 years.
Still lacing it up.
Yeah. So that's why maybe Ovi could think, and again, I can't speak for him, of course, but he could think, yeah, I could do this in 3 years, 2 if I'm really good, and then I can still go play. Look at this guy.
Right. And Ovi he's not an injury prone. Remember he had that broken
Right.
fibula. He was back like the next night or something, something ridiculous. He was back in like 3, 4 weeks. He's durable. Some guys aren't, but I'm gonna catch that game as well too. Stephen, good stuff, but man, we covered a lot because there's not a ton of like major stuff, but a lot of little stuff going on. And since we
Yeah.
sprinkle them in heading into playoff season, and then we'll have 2 months of NBA, and we'll have the NHL and good stuff. And of course, baseball gets into full swing. You can catch Steve's stuff on his daily Facebook forum page, Steve Speaking of Sports with Steve Kallas. Also, you catch this podcast on YouTube and all the audio outlets every Saturday, unless otherwise noted. And you can follow me on Twitter at Joe Staszak 975 or on Instagram at Joe Staszak 4799. Good stuff, my brother. Have a good day. And I'll be texting you this week and we'll figure it out as we go.
Always a pleasure, Joe.
You too, folks. Appreciate you watching, folks, and we'll catch you next time.